Welcome to the Jamodi podcast, where we interview coaches and leaders to find out not just what they do, but how they do what they do. Becoming the best version of ourselves is Jamodi, just a matter of doing it. What are opportunities for learning or growth that you've recently found?
I think the part that's growth is so I'm in a different lens space now, but I have the context. So I'm not a college basketball coach now, done it for 15 years, over 17 years, so almost 20 years of my life. And I'm not that's more than half of my life so far has been in that. And then you count the playing time, I mean, it's your whole life, So we have this lens that we experience things in, and then we unplug. And now I'm doing so many things kind of in and around the game that are not coaching, that I think the opportunity for growth has been to not bring in my preconceived or my own experiences to what I'm coming to, right? And really try to be open to hearing and learning, like, how does this coach do it? What are they about? How are they, you know what I mean? And not, so let's take broadcasting, for example, not trying to project my thoughts about basketball onto the broadcast and only mine. Like, obviously, there's going to be some of mine in it, but I'm doing as best I can to actually connect to the programs that I'm broadcasting for, so that I have more context for their story.
Yeah, making it about them.
Yeah, not just my interpretation of their story or what I see in that moment. So I think it's just another way for me to serve and really serve there. So like the first game I did a couple of weeks ago was a Division III playing a Division I, right? And they're playing on ESPN Plus. So it's a big deal for this Division III. They don't play on ESPN Plus, and it's in state. So there's people going to be watching it. And so there was a couple of things that were so important to them. And we played phone tag probably for, I don't know, 4 or 5, 6 times. And the guy could have been like, he could either not wanted to get with me, or I could have just been like, all right, whatever. I tried, it didn't work. But I was pretty adamant, like in recruiting, like, hey, I'm going to get this guy on the phone. I'm going to get this information. And so 2 cool parts about that was, like, he told me after the game, when I called him after the game, didn't have to do that, but I wanted to acknowledge his team, because the second half they really competed and played well, and encourage him a little bit and just talk about, his team. And then he said to me that their AD and their vice president acknowledged him, how excited they were about the broadcast, because we brought up things about their school that celebrated their school and told their story, which I thought was really cool. And then he acknowledged to me, he said it meant a lot to him for me to continue to pursue him, to connect with him, to be able to give him that opportunity for him to look good on his campus and with his people, that he didn't want to just make it about his basketball team, but about the school. So it's like stuff like that, I would say, just like not coming in thinking like, oh, I'm this or whatever it may be. Just learn people's stories, meet them where they are, and give a chance to honor what they would want to be told, and be open to that, instead of just like, well, they're not doing this, and I think they should be doing this. And if they're a good team, they're doing it. Like, it's like, I mean, you don't really know that though, So right. I think the part, like, you look at Baylor, for example, who we talked about before. No one would have thought when Matt Saman was playing for them that years later that they were going to win a national championship. Championship? There's no way. And I worked at Abilene Christian. Nobody thought when we made the move to Division I that they would go to the tournament, and let alone go to the tournament again and beat Texas in the first round. Like, these things that we think can't happen, we put these boxes on our mind. And I think for me as a coach, when I experienced college basketball, one of the hardest parts about college basketball as an assistant coach sometimes is that you are kind of put in these boxes, right? You're kind of, well, you're responsible for just this, and you're responsible for just this. And until somebody gives you an opportunity to do more, well, you're going to stay in this little box. And you almost think of yourself as this, well, you're just a recruiter, or you're just in charge of this, or you're, you know what I mean? So I think I probably took a little bit of that and said, how would I want somebody to treat me in this way? And try to humble myself enough to not make it about me, and just like, let me learn. Let me still be a student of a new craft, of a new school, of a new place, and not just think like, oh, because I coached all these years, I know what I'm talking about. It's like, gives you credibility, but it doesn't help you learn this craft or that school.
And I think you're right on the money because as you were talking about that, I just start to go back to the hundreds of games that I've listened to,
Right.
and where there's sometimes where I just am I'm enjoying the connection between what I'm visually seeing and then
Right.
what I'm hearing.
Right.
And I'm learning more about the teams, the programs,
Right.
the coaches, the universities, and what they have coming up, what they've gone through.
Right.
And then there's those times where, and it could be with very credible people,
Right.
names that you know, that
Right.
I feel like this is just about him.
Right.
And you're right on the money. I think there's a fine line between I want to know what you think and what you see because of your experience,
Right.
but it can't be the show. The
Right.
show has to be the players and the coaches. I don't know. I just jumped to a connection between us as individually as coaches with my own team.
Right.
It can't just be like, honestly, dude, my players don't care that I played at Baylor. They don't
Right.
care. They don't even
Right.
know how bad we were. They weren't even born, at
Right.
this point
Right.
now.
Good point.
They don't care about that. They don't care about how long I've been coaching. What they care about in that moment is, do I know their stories?
Right.
Am I organized? Do we have a
Right.
plan in place that is going to give us the ability to be successful? And do I really believe in them?
Right.
And I think you just hit it. I think we can take what the story that you've talked about in your lens now and use that in coaching still.
Right. And I think it's like, sum it up in like a word or two, a phrase like, do you see me? Do you see me? And then, do I respect that you're going to help me go where I want to go? It's really as simple as that. Like, people talked about Steve Nash, and I thought like Steve Nash is going to be a really good NBA coach. I thought so. Highest IQ you can possibly have as a player, as connected of a leader as you could be, but he's going to see those guys for where they are. He's not going to make it about him, but he's going to be able to add value to their game and to how he approaches it. So when you can add value and you can see people and respect where they are, it just goes a long way in any business, in any field, I think.
Thank you for checking out today's episode. Please take a moment to subscribe to this podcast, share it with your fellow coaches, and find us on social media for what's coming up next on the Jamodi podcast. It's just a matter of doing it.